If your green light's not on your microphone, it means it's not on.
There we go. Hello.
The green button.
If it goes red,
That's what I did, yeah.
All right, let me call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Redevelopment Commission for Wednesday, August 17th. We have it in front of you an agenda, but we need to start by calling the roll. Yeah, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Martin,
Present.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yeah.
Present.
Commissioner McCarty,
Present.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Here,
Commissioner Shelton,
Don't believe
Not
he's here.
I see Lisa Rich is in there.
can you promote Jim Shelton to a member, please? Or panelist, I guess.
Is he out there?
Present.
There he is.
Hi there.
Thank you. And Commissioner Tucker.
Present.
We have all the members present and Commissioner Shelton is present via Zoom.
Remote. Okay, we want to change, we have one of our participants this evening has a scheduling problem. So we would like to move item number 4 up into the agenda,
Okay,
and I'm going to do it, and we'll bump Randy's introduction later so he can say some more than me saying he's a new member. And then we'll do the presentation from RBBS CSC. We'll go through our minutes, claims, any other public comment after that. Anybody object to the change in the agenda?
you're doing MCCSC right now?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to know. I
Okay.
wasn't sure what I heard. But I
Right.
don't hear well.
Without objection, we're going to change the agenda around. So our first item of business is our discussion with MCCSC regarding the residential district that we've been considering. So Jeff, you want to lead this up?
Why don't you guys, where do you want to sit? You sit at the table.
What?
No, we're the ones telling the lies today. You can get the list.
Well, honestly, I just didn't want to listen to the superintendent from RBB, so that's why I asked.
All right, we'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, speak up though, please.
Yeah, I'm Brandon Shure and I'm the school board president,
I
MCCSC.
did not hear what you said.
My name is Brandon Shure and I'm the school board president of MCCSC.
Thank you.
My name is Dr. Jeff Housewald, superintendent, MCCSC.
Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Glad to have you both here.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yes. We have as part of our activities, we look at the creation of redevelopment districts of one kind or another. And we have been considering a residential TIF district in an area which we already have, part of which is already in a TIF district that we would redeploy into a new district. And part of our obligation in doing these considerations is to talk to various elements of the community that will be impacted in some way by the TIF activities. One of those is the school corporation, which has the jurisdiction in which we're looking to create this district. Okay, so Jeff, I'll let you take it over.
And I guess maybe with a little background for the redevelopment commission, I met with both these gentlemen earlier today. I gave them a map of the areas we're looking
Okay.
at. This one from that planning commission packet.
Okay.
And we went through the areas that we're looking at. We went through, rough densities of 3 to 5 houses per acre. Again, that would be different in different areas, but I think that's kind of the consensus of what we've talked about, with nothing being finally determined on any of that. And so we talked about capacity for the schools. We talked about any concerns they have with any of these. And I think from a capacities perspective, they indicated that in that area, they had capacity for this kind of development. One of the concerns they indicated was that there is no really good east-west connector over I-69. And so particularly for that northern section, that was something that, you know, if we move forward with the residential TIF in that area, if we could look at a project of that nature, that would be helpful to the school.
Right.
So I think that's a synopsis and summary of what we discussed earlier.
Historically, we've had the school corporation involved in this two different times in the past that I'm aware of. One was when we did the through the plan commission, when we did the PUD for what we call our North Park area, which is that area on both sides of 46 between what is now 69 going towards Ellettsville, so that they were involved in that plan. And part of that area is what we're going to be considering here. And it's primarily the residential component of that particular PUD, which we'd be talking about. And then we're thinking about extending and the second one would have been when we created the TIF district itself. We would have gone through this same process at that point in time. So on both of those occasions, as Jeff had indicated, and you had indicated to him, capacity was not really a problem at the time. We felt we were in pretty good shape. We are doing some things to make connectivity in that area better. Our next project is going to be actually extending Curry Pike across Hunter Valley Road so that it connects up with Arlington Road, which will give us a much better east-west connection there. And there's a bridge right there which goes across the 69. There is, however, it's a potential issue with north-south all going through one intersection at Curry Pike and 46. And we have looked at, the original plans looked at various ways that we might be able to ameliorate that. There will be another set of road connections west of there. There's already road stubs that have been put in. If you're driving that way, you can see on both sides of the road, there's an area where a roadway can come in on both sides. So those areas have been planned. And then at some points in the past, we have talked about actually putting some kind of pedestrian bridge over 46 to allow non-vehicular traffic to cross in a reasonable way. But that's another kind of, we don't know how it can be done or exactly what can be done. We even looked at going underneath the road with a pathway along where we've got the culvert areas for the drainage there already. So a lot of possibilities in the future. But all of those are, as you are aware, we haven't seen a lot of development in that area, you know, and that's one of the reasons why we're interested in putting this TIF in that area is we have infrastructure available, but we haven't seen development, and we need more infrastructure to actually get the development to occur. That's kind of our interaction with MCCSC at this point. Do you have any questions for us?
No, I don't believe so. We really appreciate Mr. Cockrell, who reached out to us and kind of explained your goals. You know, we want to be good partners with city government, with county government, with your efforts to address some of our housing shortages. And so we know this year, for example, we have 85 new teachers. Many of them have struggled to find housing. And so I just personally appreciate your efforts to create housing in a way that I really brings the affordability, makes the housing a little more affordable, we hope, and hopefully begins to address some of the housing needs we have in our community. I believe, and talking before President Scherer, that it's our responsibility and our opportunity to meet the educational needs of the students that come here, and we want more students to continue to move to this area. We want more families to come to this area. We know with that comes additional jobs and economic prosperity. And we're really lucky in our community. We've seen an increase in the last year and a continued exponential growth in assessed valuation, which provides additional fundings for MCCSC. And so and talking with Jeff, we know there's a long-term development here. This wouldn't happen overnight. It would give us an opportunity to make adjustments. We would likely see some impact on Arlington Elementary School based upon the projected numbers in either one phase or two phases. We would have time to meet those needs. Students here feed into Tri-North Middle School, and we just built a wonderful facility there. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it's phenomenal, and we believe we can accommodate that. Of course, Bloomington High School North would be the students that feed into, and the only concern was voiced by Jeff. We currently have a lot of bottleneck. If you've been at Bloomington North, with 37 becoming limited access, with 69, the students all have to come down Arlington or the road that spits out there at Kroger. And so we have a lot of Kinzer, yeah. So we have a lot of delays. It's expensive for our buses in and out of there. And so I tell you that because in the long term, especially if you look at a second phase, if there was a east-west access north of Arlington, just to be studied, that would be very, very, very helpful for us, our staff and our bus drivers would appreciate that. And also to your point, as you begin building these neighborhoods, all of these students feeding to Bloomington High School North, even pedestrian access that would get them. Now, I understand the conversation on 46, but a way for the students to have easy access, particularly students that stay after school, extracurricular, co-curricular that may end early, that have internships, a way by which they could easily and safely get from school to their homes in this new development. We would ask that you consider that. I see no other reason. I see no reason why the school corporation would oppose this. I think I'm very comfortable being on record of being supportive of your efforts to provide additional housing for the community. And if you have no other questions, I'll let Board President Sure make his comments. But I don't know why we would you need to belabor conversations with us. I see MCCSC supporting your efforts, and I personally appreciate your efforts.
Well, it's not going to happen overnight, that's for sure.
Well, no, we can wait a week.
No, I agree with Dr. Oswald. I have nothing else to add to it. So thank you so much. It was nice. It was very helpful to meet beforehand, before this meeting, to kind of hear what you all are thinking of. So.
And I see you guys in the role you play in this development commission, just from my outside looking in, being very responsive to attuned to the community needs, and really a desire to move us forward in an intelligent way, and a way that betters our community, whether it's green space and parks or affordable housing, and how you partner with the schools, including the partnerships in past TIF areas with RBB, and how you're communicating with us on this one. I'm very appreciative, and I commend you for your efforts.
All right. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
And I think we have the information we need to take our next steps.
Great.
Thanks.
We
Thanks
will
for
keep
having
you
us.
informed as we go forward.
We appreciate it. Thanks.
Have a
guys.
good
Stay
evening.
in touch.
Thanks.
Oh, we will. Same here.
Okay. Next on our agenda is new commissioner introduction. So I'm going to introduce Randy Cassidy, and Randy can introduce himself to all of you. I've known Randy for quite some time. I think many of us have. You
Yes.
might, for the public, which may be out there and may not know you as well.
Randy Cassidy. I've just been a long-term, lifelong resident of, I'm Randy Cassidy. I'm a lifelong resident of Monroe County and try to be involved in a lot of civic duties in regards to it. And as we look at our county as a whole and what it is, what it can be, and what we envision it to be for the future, I was very fortunate to be given the opportunity to serve with, these fine individuals that are on this board to try to make our county, as we all know, the best and brightest that it can be. So I appreciate the opportunity and look forward. to
Welcome
working with you.
aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah. I now, Randy, this is, I think, the first time we've served on the same commission, but we have served on other commissions at different, on other commissions at different times.
Right.
So we have a fairly long history together.
It's
All right,
a good one.
welcome aboard. I'm glad you're here. I think your unique experiences in the county and your history will be of value to us. I think so. Okay, next. RBB.
Good afternoon. I'm Jerry Sanders, Superintendent at Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation, and behind me, over my right shoulder,
Where'd it go?
we have John Kerr, who's one of our Ready Schools coaches at the elementary level, and Megan Scott, who's a Ready School coach at the junior high. And they are doing some amazing things. They could probably do a presentation on their own about all that they're accomplishing with our students and teachers. I also want to congratulate Randy on his appointment, and looking forward to working with him through the commission. And Randy, and as well as anybody else, I know a few of you have been able to come over and take a tour of our new Innovative Learning Center. And so I'd like to invite Randy at your convenience, and anyone else to come and just see in person what's going on. We do a lot of these presentations but when it's amazing when people come in, they see the coaches in action and the students in action, it makes a world of difference. So Randy, you're invited. So every once in a while at our school board meetings, I will highlight partners that we have that support what we're doing with Ready Schools and other initiatives. This past Monday night at our school board meeting, I recognized one of our partners who's really at the foundation of what we do, and that's the Redevelopment Commission. And I want to thank you. I thank the board on Monday night for the opportunity to work with all of you, and we are looking forward to making this presentation tonight. I'm going to quit talking because I want to give time for Jamie Miller, who is our Ready Schools coordinator, to go through the presentations and then give you time to answer any questions.
And I think that we're prepared to put that as a screen share so the people at home can go through it. Is that right?
Sure. You put the slides up, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. That'd be nice.
Did you send him the presentation?
Yes. Well, it was emailed to the Zoom account.
Here we go. Maybe. Let's go. Technology.
Jeff, I'm at my computer. If they don't have it, I can resend it.
What did Lisa say?
Why don't you go ahead and send it again, Lisa, so that it'll be at the top of their email.
Okay, it's set.
Here we go.
Well, I will just start by saying it was so nice to add a photo to the cover slide here that didn't have masks. You could see those sweet faces hard at work. So that picture is fresh off a group of interns just this fall, getting started in one of their placements. So that was really a nice change to our slide cover there. So if you go ahead and advance to slide 2, this is just a review. Randy, for you, where we've come from and anyone else listening, thanks to you all and the support of the RDC, our STEAM initiative really dates back to 2016, 2017, and was truly a foundation, which I'll speak to here in a second, to everything else that has happened at RBB since with this Ready Schools initiative. So what you see on slide 2, this implementation plan was the product of a year-long strategic planning process that we went through in 2019, 2020, just before the pandemic, where we had the opportunity to interview, survey. Yeah, on slide 2, please. There you go. So this is just a snapshot look at the product that came of that design process. So we looked at everything that we had already been doing for 3 years through our STEM initiative, and through this process that was facilitated by Regional Opportunities Initiative, or ROI, was, like I said, the strategic design process where we were able to interview, survey, talk to all of our stakeholders, business owners, teachers, students, parents, families. And these pillars, these 3 overarching themes of innovative teaching and learning, career awareness and readiness, and then family and community engagement. Each of these strategies that are outlined there below represent various initiatives, but this was the structure following those 6 core tenets that we came up with that really turned into part of who we are as a school district, not just an initiative or a single program, but really incorporates everything that we do, everything that we represent, and are working towards. So that's just a glimpse back at where we've come from, and really, like I said, a product of that evolution of our STEAM initiative through Ready Schools. And now on slide 3, the way we really think about our partnership with you all as the Redevelopment Commission and how we've moved forward is represented here in that foundational nature of our relationship with you all. We could not have done much of what we've done with this initiative without that foundation. We were able to build teacher capacity, student capacity. We really defined what STEM learning at RBB is. And at the time, we were doing so based off of a very prominent national trend towards STEM education. You wouldn't be able to find a school district right now that isn't implementing STEM-based instructional practices and integrating science, technology, engineering, and math in some way. So moving forward, each of these tiers now in this pyramid that you see, those first 2 that I just spoke to, and then building upon that plan that we rolled out in 2020. Now, every state grant that we apply for, every program that we look at and entertain adopting as a district, every partnership that we pursue is based on that same foundation. We look back at these same pillars, the same tenets of that plan that we drafted. So whether it's a STEM integration grant that we submitted today, or a grant we submitted last week to build out an education pathway based on the obvious need for a more robust pipeline for talent in the education sector in particular, whatever initiative it is, we really look at through this lens of this foundation that we've established, because it really has become part of who we are, and right down to those individual partnerships with particular employers or organizations that represent single sectors. Any questions about that before I kind of dive into now just more of a detailed overview
I
of
guess
our
I have a
budget, our
question. You
goals.
talked about state grants. Do you see an increase in state grants that you guys are getting for this?
As in increased opportunities or increased awards for us
I
in
go with
particular?
the awards, but
I would love to think that, yes, we are. Obviously, it's a double-edged sword for us because we actually disqualify ourselves in some positive ways, because in a lot of cases, grant funding goes to districts who haven't X, Y, and Z, or have never before X, Y, and Z. So we've actually found that we put ourselves in a position now where we have things in place that grants have been specifically tailored for. So our coach positions are actually a perfect example. Last year, there was a STEM focused grant that we didn't qualify for because we already have instructional coaches in place. A lot of those are based on performance and scores. A lot are based on free and reduced rates, the economic need of our student base. So I would like to think that we apply for every grant that's available. And really the only situations where we aren't awarded them are those situations where we've already sort of graduated out of qualification. But good question.
But we are actively involved in looking for state grants and federal grants if they're available, and also pursuing our local partnerships. We continually meet with various local businesses, and that partnership, those partnerships aren't always financial. Sometimes it's a sharing of information and gathering information that helps us. And then we through those conversations, we learn what our local employers are looking for in terms of employees. And so we can adjust our programs to prepare our students so that when they go out into the workforce, they're ready because we've had those conversations with the local businesses.
So before we dive into those measurables.
I just have a quick question. Can I ask a question, Deb? The bottom rung of that, the artist partnership. Out of the budget, what percentage of our budget do we depend on that support from RDC? We have a ballpark.
Our STEAM budget in
Yes,
particular,
yes.
so that's what I was just gonna speak to on the next slide. What you see on slide 4, the budget or the more of an expense report from the last year is a little bit skewed because we are in the midst of implementation of our ROI, our Ready Schools implementation grant. So that year-long design process that I mentioned, we had a grant to support that year of exploration. And then we, based on our findings, applied for an implementation grant that had a 3-year implementation term. So now in this school year, 22-23 is our final year of those 3 years of implementation. So a lot of our expenses as far as durable equipment, software, training costs even were either diminished because of COVID and reallocated in different ways, but in most cases came from that budget last year. So last year, you'll see the vast majority of our expense was those coach roles. The personnel, that's another piece that in a lot of cases, actually, to speak to Jeff's question, most state grants don't allow us to allocate money to the personnel. They want us to invest in the durable equipment, the training, broader capacity, which I'll speak to an answer we have to that challenge here in a moment. So last year, the substantial need is the personnel, our instructional coaches, which that's that example of how we're really ahead of the curve in the state right now. So I would say that's the most critical benefit of this partnership right now, where we had supplemental funding for equipment. We couldn't sustain these roles yet without this partnership.
I would just ask that we go to the next slide.
So that's that breakdown that I just spoke to of the last year of expenses from this fund.
Okay, so
Any
then the
questions
next,
there?
with the next slide.
So now we're ready for slide 5. Yep. So if you remember, part of our most recent agreement with you all was to draft measurable outcomes, ways that we could measure our progress in a really, we're in a really difficult field to quantify sometimes the benefit of your investment, because not only is our capital human capital, it's human capital that in a lot of cases are 10 years from where they're going to enter the workforce or more. And so we've tried to find the most concrete measurable ways that we can show you the impact of your investment. And so each of these measurable outcomes, I've pulled different vignettes and different pieces of data here to speak to that particular goal. So this goal that you see on slide 5 is one of 2 that are based directly on our project-based learning initiative. That was that initial foundation that you all invested in at the time, a historical investment in training and unprecedented investment we made in training and committing to train all of our teachers in project-based learning, this new STEM-based approach to student learning K-12. So from our kindergartners through our high schoolers. And now as this strategy has refined and through that Ready Schools process, not just, we realized we weren't just offering our students project-based learning, the student-led, authentic, relevant approach to learning, but now we're doing so to access digital fabrication skills, to access media production skills. We're starting to add these additional layers of relevancy tied to those specific career sectors that are represented in our community. So we wrote these 2 goals in that way, that through PBL as a vehicle, our students would be equipped to access our design labs, our media studios, these spaces that we're investing as a district with our funds to provide our students. And so, like I said, this is one vignette from the first full semester in Megan's lab at the junior high. This is the number of full classes that signed up to engage in that design lab in their very first semester of implementation. So these students, with an average of 25 students in each of these classes, with obviously some repeat sections of classes visiting the lab multiple times, you can see pretty quickly how that impact starts to multiply. And then the additional courses in the media studio there at the junior high. That's a devoted class that served 115 students last year in their first year. And now actually just even since sending you all these slides today, I got an update that teacher who we've dubbed that program Edge Media, the students that are engaged in Edge Media this year have exceeded 253 junior high students that are going to be in that class during this school year. So the direct quote was, "I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but we are going to do a lot this year." So she said she's up to 253 students that will be enrolled in first or second semester in that media production class at the junior high, with now an additional principals or introductory class that we've added at the high school with an additional 17 students that will be enrolled in that very first class now starting last week at the high school. So this just is an example of what I'm going to unpack here on slide 6. If you could advance to the next goal, you all have hit the nail on the head with some of your questions. Our teacher capacity, we've sort of hit a glass ceiling at times with being able to prepare our teachers because we already have great capacity. And so we've started to increase breadth in addition to depth. And so that media production program is one example of where we've expanded beyond STEM C or STEM S in the sense of the computer science strand or the science strand of that STEM acronym. And we're starting to branch out into humanities. And that's where that PBL, that project-based learning model, really takes power, because we can equip our English teachers, our social studies teachers, those humanity disciplines that aren't traditionally STEM disciplines. Now we can empower those teachers to instill these same STEM skills that our employers are asking for in their content areas and their pathways as well. So the education studies pathway that I mentioned earlier, that's now a career and technical ed pathway that we can pour resources into to empower future teachers, we hope, to fill that same pipeline. Because again, in a true cyclical nature, we had our highest rate of turnover this year in teachers that in my tenure at RBB, with 30 some new hires this year. We have a lot of work to do with retraining now our new teachers in project-based learning and restoring our capacity that we committed to you all, that we would maintain this level of 90% trained teachers. We had to draft an implementation plan and apply for an additional grant to now do so. But again, like we like to think in our nature of approaching things, meeting that challenge and then exceeding it. And so not only are we going to retrain our teachers, but we're building back our cadet teaching programs so we can build into our high school teachers who want to become teachers, and just aligning and kind of dovetailing all of these strategies and all of these programs so we can continue to hit these measurable goals for you. So you can see there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, jump in for if you have any questions.
Insight into why.
I would not be able to identify one particular area. I thought about that because normally when you have that much of a turnover, you think, well, are we doing something wrong? But there wasn't one thing. We had some teachers who moved on to other opportunities. We probably had a few who through COVID maybe were ready to do something else. But RBB wasn't the only school corporation. I think very much most school corporations in the state and probably around the country were facing the same thing. Where I feel like things worked out for RBB is we had a lot of openings, but we had them all filled by the time school started, and with quality teachers. The principals, I've never seen them more excited about their new teachers than this year. So.
And we try to address as many of those variables as we have control over, providing the coaching support, again, having that partnership with our teachers and us available to give them the tools they need. We have teachers teaching brand new courses that they've never taught before, and their ability and opportunity to come to us as instructional coaches and co-plan and co-teach. In addition to these labs, we like to think that it's more fun to teach when they can do more innovative things and teach new courses and breathe some new life into what they're teaching. So we hope that we're addressing as many of those variables as we can. If you look to slide 7 now, the next goal there, sort of flipping the lens from our teachers and the ways that we can empower them, now also looking at the same considerations with our students. This goal we wrote to address our students' preparedness when they leave us in high school. So again, a lot of the programming that we've shared, we told you we would alternate between really sharing the exciting program updates in one of our semi-annual updates to you all, and then getting into more of the nitty-gritty numbers here. But you'll remember a lot of the programs that we shared with you in the spring are and with 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, right? These programs that we can't measure yet, but with these students as they're approaching graduation, we are starting to try to find ways to capture their plans and then compare that right with the persistence rate. Is what they're telling Mrs. Miller in the spring of their senior year they're going into, is that actually what they're persisting in finishing a program or even staying in for a year or more? So we're still looking at new ways to try to capture that data, but this is based off of survey data with our seniors. We started expanding on what is the required graduation survey of all seniors in Indiana and starting to pull more information. So this was a pretty extensive survey that we dispersed to all of our seniors in the spring, and you'll see we've exceeded that 80% goal that each of our students can articulate in detail what their plan is on Monday morning after high school graduation. I always tell you, I joke that I don't care what their plan is as long as it's viable and it's informed. They can that part's up to them. We have to give them the tools to make an informed decision. So 90.2% of our students indicated that of that plan, it included some sort of post-secondary education or training. And then of those students, 93% of them indicated a specific 2-year, 4-year, or a combination of two that they intend to enroll in now in the fall of 2022. Again, this is based on self-reporting data and self-selecting into these programs. So this doesn't account for whether they were admitted into those programs, whether they were able to finance those programs. But this is based off of their self-reporting of an intended plan at that exit survey. And opposite that data, then starting on slide 8, you'll see what I will refer to as the CHE data, the Commission for Higher Ed. That entity at our state level, they report data back to us in, unfortunately, a 2-year delay. So our report card, if you will, as a school district reports that post-secondary data on our graduates 2 years later. So our 2021 scorecard, which is our most recent data reported back to us from the Commission for Higher Ed, reports on the 2019 cohort of students, which is why we identified this need to gain more detailed information from our students in the moment when they leave, even if we can't validate that data until 2 years later. So starting on slide 8, you'll see I've taken the data from the CHE and unpacked it based on the career pathways. So part of our goal is that our students are identifying a relevant pathway post-graduation in this post-secondary training. But obviously the intended purpose is that we're doing so to retain them as promising talent, right? It's easier to retain talent than it is to attract. And so we want our students to identify pathways that are going to yield careers here in the Indiana Uplands, in Southern Indiana. And so a couple of years ago, I shared with you all a slide that had essentially 2 inverse triangles. We had a triangle of the fastest growing career sectors in Indiana, those STEM fields, typically advanced manufacturing, the life sciences, and then a graph that showed the career pathways or the career sectors that our students were choosing as Edgewood graduates to go out into the world and pursue. And they were almost directly opposite. With those STEM careers at the highest, the broadest point of the triangle, that was our smallest percentage of our students were identifying those careers. They were identifying the arts, the humanities, social sciences, careers that weren't necessarily not viable, but they weren't the fastest growing in our region, which means they weren't going to have an easy time finding employment after they complete that post-secondary program. So slide 8 shows you a breakdown, again, based off of their self-reported data, but based off the CHE data, then what the forecasted trend is. So that arts and humanities was that sector that really wasn't growing quickly in our region. There were not unfilled positions in that sector. And now our rate of students reporting that is starting to go down. So 10% of our seniors in the 2022 cohort identified that as their intended career sector. And then you can see with business, education, STEM on down, unpacking STEM obviously as a variety of fields from technology to agriculture, engineering, all of those lumped together. That's now on the rise. So 27% of our students in this year's graduating class identifying a career in that field. So that just shows that hopefully of those, providing them with those 16 general career sectors, that they're starting to identify what are more viable pathways to become employable after they leave us. And then, are there any questions so far? Slide 9 is just the data opposite. I think
I noticed in here about humanities, social service,
mhm,
and yet you make emphasis on to the humanities side. Is that in part responding to this trend, or is it?
good question.
Things moving along?
Good question. I would say that my answer is twofold. Those STEM practices that we're equipping our teachers to teach via are those employability skills that kids need to be equipped with no matter which sector they enter. So those employability skills by any other name are those critical thinking, collaboration, communication, what we've built into our graduate profile that you all are probably tired of seeing that leaf shape diagram at this point. But those 6 skill sets that we have built out now into learning objectives opposite the state's employability skills, that's part of that explanation. But then also, as educators, we have to prepare our students for those viable careers. But we also have to meet them where they are, their interests. And so we have students that aren't going to self-select into an engineering course right now. So if we can build those same skills into the humanities courses, we're sneaking the skills in, right? We're meeting them where they are and giving them those same experiences to be able to develop critical thinking skills within every course that they're taking, every discipline. Does that help?
Substantial investment in immediate correction stuff.
Mhm.
People will be able to see a future with that. How that's impacting that sector and spread across all of it. Maybe it's-
I'll let you know in a couple weeks when we find out about that STEM integration grant. That's what we wrote that for. That's that humanities path. We're trying to convince the world that that is a STEM-based application within that communication field, right? So those kids start with storyboarding. They start with writing scripts. They start with those ELA, those language arts standards, and then they apply the STEM tools and the STEM skills to be able to produce in a different way. Our kids are really proficient at consuming media, and they're not as proficient at producing and creating. So that's what we're trying to empower them to do there. Yeah, of course. So on slide 9, like I said, just again, trying to find a way to quantify 2-year-old data from the Commission for Higher Ed and compare it to what our current graduates are sharing. This is just 2 cohorts that you can start to see. Really, the takeaway is a broader distribution, right? We don't want every student to identify engineering as their pathway. We don't need a world of engineers. We need a world of informed, capable, confident, effective employees. So whatever sector, whatever pathway they're entering, hopefully what we're communicating with our partners is that each of those different sectors that they represent as professional organizations, we're preparing students to enter their organizations with the same skill sets that they're asking for, just with the different interests and passions based on which of these different pathways they're choosing. Another kind of nuanced detail on slide 9 before we keep going. In that spirit of trying to balance our students self-selecting in, these top 7 career pathways accounted for 99% of our graduates in 2017. And by 2019, that number was down to 97%. There were quite a few more additional pathways that students are self-selecting into of those 16. And those are the 16 general national career pathways. So our students are starting to sort of step out of line, so to speak, in a good way, and identify pathways that they maybe didn't even know existed in prior years. And that's what you'll see on slide 10 as well, if you advance there. a different goal here, but getting at the same objective. This goal we wrote to start earlier, exposing our students through Project Lead the Way, which is a STEM-based curriculum, exposing them to these different career pathways in the elementary grades. And they're every student now in kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, and then also in every junior high grade level. 100% of our students are engaging in one of these Project Lead the Way units. And these are the explicitly STEM-based curricular units. So at the junior high, it's a semester-long course. At the elementary, it's at least one unit of study or module. By exposing them earlier to these different careers, our hope is that they will start to have a better understanding of what those different career paths even represent, so that they can decide whether that is or isn't for them when they start to choose courses at the higher grade levels. So this is their confidence and awareness in what these different career sectors even represent. And this was the first year that we captured this data, so I hope next year we can start to show you some of that trend information there. And then the last two goals on slides 11 and 12 have to do with our partnerships with employers. So on slide 11, you'll see those same career pathways, but using those to show the distribution of now this year's high school interns. So our work-based learning experiences. This is a program that saw, unfortunately, tremendous erosion, probably even beyond attrition through COVID. We couldn't get our students out into workplaces safely. And so we saw a huge decline in the number of students participating in these work-based learning experiences and also the rigor of the experiences. So we're trying to restore that program now this year and get them into more intentional placements. And we're also a part of 2 pilot programs. So those partnerships that you see there, Upskill and Earn, that's a regional and a state level pilot that we're fortunate to be a part of. Again, that makes us eligible for certain opportunities, but then discounts us for other opportunities because we are ahead of the curve and participating in these initiatives where we're really defining what the system looks like to put our high schoolers in more rigorous and also compensated, more paid, rigorous work-based learning experiences. And so we're defining what that looks like. We're creating the tools that hopefully will inform other districts and other regions. And we're really crafting, hopefully, what looks like and becomes a sustainable program for others to follow. But through that, we're starting with these 20 students that we had last year. And our goal is to then build by 10% each year on the number of those experiences, in addition to how robust, obviously, each of those individual experiences are. And then with that, the next slide, really the final slide, has to do with just the number of partnerships that we're engaging and how we're diversifying those. So we're not just constantly going to the same employers or even in the same pathways to ask for this partnership. We always try to ask for just communication first of our business partners, and then human capital. Can we learn from you? Can we talk with you? Can we bounce ideas off of you before we ever make any sort of financial ask, whether that means compensating students for an internship or sponsoring a program? We really just value the information sharing and the knowledge that we can gain from these organizations to hopefully prepare our students as best we can to send them out to contribute to those same organizations. So this goal is just speaking to how we're capturing the feedback from each of those organizations. And then similarly, we're trying to define clear roles and clear opportunities so that new partners have something to go off of when we ask them to engage in different ways. We can sort of give them a menu of sorts of exemplar partnerships that we already have in place and ways for them to engage.
When we sit down with a business, it's a two-way conversation. I've been in education long enough to know that too often probably schools have done more asking of businesses than giving to businesses. And when we have these conversations, we want to share with them what we're doing and hopefully inspire them to become a partner. But we also want to be good listeners. And we've gone to the plant in this cook plant in Ellisville and actually toured that facility and sat down with their leadership and had each one of them tell us what do they look for in an employee. And so that can inform us of what we're doing. So we want to be able to give back to our partners. And as Jamie was presenting today, and by the way, when we went through our year of planning for Ready Schools, we visited school corporations from Tennessee to Wisconsin, saw some amazing programs, some great facilities. But I remember there was one concern that developed that I saw in every place that we visited. And that was the concern that every one of them had people who were making those programs successful. And so I was a little worried. I knew that we had to go back home and find the right people, and we have. And John and Megan and Jamie here, as you could tell through her presentation, that's what makes us all really work well for us. Yeah, the other thing is, as Jamie was presenting, there are probably maybe 3 commissioners that were on when we first started working together. And I imagine from the very first presentations to this one, they've changed quite a bit. I hope there's a lot more to it that you see that really the RDC planted a seed that has just really bloomed and exploded. And that's why we really value your partnership and your great questions. We take your questions and I hope you see evidence of that, but we take those questions back to the corporation, and we have our own conversations about what we learned from your questions, and that helps us to get better. So what questions do you have of us this afternoon?
Well, I compliment you on the effort you made to identify the impacts. I have been one of the people needling you to, does this work?
We do
Show me that
appreciate
it
it.
works.
We
Well,
heard
and this is pretty good evidence now that this is having some payoff to the
Well, it
community.
really does make us better. So
And
we mean it when we say.
and
we
I think
appreciate
that data is only going to get better, because you have to think about, I say this about our students all the time. Over the last 2 years, our students and staff have had about 18 weeks of normalcy. So we've been doing all this through COVID, and we've been able to build a design labs at the junior high and an innovative learning center at the high school, and put this all together. But I'm really excited about this school year, because I believe this is where it's really going to come together and make a difference for our kids.
No, they seem to be enthused.
Very impressive. Thank you.
I just want to
Thank you, Milt.
I want to add a sidebar to this. This isn't rehearsed, even though I'm on the RBB board, because I haven't even told you this story.
Put your mic now.
3 weeks ago, I was in Odin at the meat market and waiting in line, and the lady behind me had the STEM shirt on. And I said, "Tell me what your role is with STEM or STEAM." And she said, "Well, I've been at Crane for the last 5 years." She was a teacher at Washington schools, which is part of the ROI. And she said, and I said, "Well, I'm on the school board RVB." And I said, I'm not sure if we're involved in it." But she goes, "Oh my gosh, we've had some great interns from Edgewood High School." And so I had no idea. So I commend you for that. And I knew 2 of the 3 that she had, and they're both in engineering school out in Colorado now. So that just jumped out at me. So hats off to you guys.
Great.
So
No, good. Thank you.
Good.
So exciting.
Any more questions
job.
for them? Any from the people remotely accessing, virtually accessing?
Well, hey, this is Jim Shelton. I'm one of the 3 original ones, I guess. And I've complimented you from the very beginning about how you took this little seed, and it has grown from the very beginning and grown and grown. And this is very impressive. I think we need to somehow get a wider audience for this, because this is great. And I'd really like to make sure that county council, which was the entity that really asked us to consider something, which you guys proposed this, to to see what, people like Jeff McKim and Cheryl Munson and Marty Hawk ask us to do and what has come from it. You might want to look for an opportunity to tell them that. This is probably more than they would want to hear at a meeting, but we could certainly forward this. You might want to consider forwarding a copy of this video to them and thank them, because that was what started it. And then you guys came up with the idea for this, and it has just been a seed that has grown like pumpkins or something. So congratulations. It's very impressive.
I'm glad you mentioned those individuals. Those are really great people to reach out to, and one of my favorite things to do is take people on a tour of our design labs and the media production lab that the students are getting ready to do their own podcasts and videos, and it's just amazing stuff. And so once again, extend the invitation to all of you to come back anytime.
It's a great visit when I have visited. Thank you very much for doing that. Appreciate it.
Great stuff.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah, good data.
All right, thank you.
Good job. Congratulations.
Okay. Good job. Moving along.
Well, hello, this is Clark Greiner. I'd love to make a comment if I could about that.
Yes, Clark.
Okay. Yeah, Clark Greiner with the Bloomington Economic Development Corporation. I am also a member of the Ellettsville Chamber of Commerce. And I want to say I have had the pleasure to tour the STEM lab out there at Edgewood. It's a fantastic place. If you haven't had a chance to do it, strongly encourage anybody to do that, as well as anybody that's listening to this. Hats off to Ms. Miller there for such an outstanding presentation and presenting all the key performance indicators. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I think the program is headed in a perfect direction, and it looks like it's gathering momentum. I'd also like to, really, again, hats off to Dr. Sanders and his staff for A, having the vision, and B, being able to implement it in such a good, effective way for our students out there and in the area. Part of the thing that I do is on the business development, retention, and expansion is that we're always looking for talent and places to get talent. And what they're doing is exactly what we need. Our area employers love this sort of thing. It's just a wonderful thing that they're doing and very, very important to us. One of the BREA strategies that we have is talent attraction and retention, and getting them trained to this degree and stuff is such a phenomenal thing. So highest kudos to what they're doing, and certainly proud to have them presenting today here, and love to hear that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Clark.
Okay, anybody else out there? All right. Next on our agenda are the June and July minutes. And I think we have enough people here to do this. All right. The minutes were distributed in the packet that we received from Jeff. We have minutes for the meeting of June 15th. And we have, I don't know if you'd call them minutes. We have some notes about the meeting of July 20th, where we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't technically have a meeting. Are there any questions or comments about any of these meeting minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of both notes, the notes as well as the minutes.
Okay, we have,
I second.
we have a motion for approval and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying, oh, you got to.
We've got to do a roll
We've
call.
got virtual people, yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes,
Commissioner Shelton.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 5-0.
Okay, next on our agenda are the claims. The first one is a claim for Kreider and Kreider. This is a claim that is left over from July
July, yeah.
and, or June, July, like, yes, July meeting. It is for $226,170.41. And this is construction activities on Profile Parkway Extension. This is draw number 9. Lisa, is this pretty close to the end of this project now?
Yeah, actually, I have reached out to Mr. Kreider again, trying to get the final payment for the Hart Straight project. And I've reached out to him about this project and asked him if he could get the final numbers to us. He's just trying to tally his numbers to match what our inspector has. I don't think there's going to be any really big discrepancies, so I'm still
Okay.
pushing, but we should still be getting in those final claims for those.
All right. Any questions regarding this claim? I'll entertain a motion for its approval.
I move approval of the claims.
It was okay to approve. It's okay to pay for that at that meeting that we didn't have a quorum. Did we say that at that time?
Yeah, we could not approve it at the last meeting. because
Right.
We didn't have a quorum.
So I move approval of both lists of claims.
Well, let me do them. I'm gonna do them one at a time since they were from different meetings.
Okay,
Right,
So you're moving approval of this claim for Kreider and Kreider,
yes, I'm proving that.
and do we have a second?
second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claim of Kreider and Kreider in amount of $226,170.41 for work on Profile Parkway project. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes,
Commissioner Shelton.
Yes,
Motion is approved, 5-0.
Okay. Our next claim is our current claims for approval. These have to do, there are 3 claims in this packet. 2 from Smith Design Group and 1 from for Rose Properties purchase. These have to do with purchase of easement and temporary or purchase of right of way and temporary right of way for the Vernal Pike Connector project. There's a map in the packet that shows you the particular pieces of property that are being acquired. There are the descriptions of the legal descriptions of the parcels. And then there's a letter talking about the appraisal that came in and a letter from Lisa indicating that it's probably a good idea for us to approve the requested amount rather than spending the money to dicker about the appraisal and ended up spending more money and taking more time if we didn't. So this seemed like it was reasonable to me and put together properly. Are there any questions about this request for approval of claims?
doesn't look like it's out of sight in terms of the price. I know
Yeah, it's
we're,
one of your cheaper properties.
what'd you say, Lisa?
It's one of your cheaper properties on this project, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to have other claims for other pieces of property in this
that's
project.
right.
Yeah.
I move approval of the claims for today.
Okay.
For Smith's Design, 1,400, Smith Design, 4,900, and for acquisition of the Rose property at 30,000 for a total of $36,300.
Okay, we have a motion for approval.
Second.
Second. Jim, did you second?
Second, Colin.
No, Colin seconded.
I.
Okay. We have a motion for approval and a second. Jeff, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes,
Commissioner Shelton.
yes.
Motion is approved, 5-0.
Okay. Next on our agenda is public comment. And we have no one left in public.
they all left.
Everybody's left. except yours. Okay. Any public comment from anyone who is connected remotely? Hearing none, we will move on. Staff comment. Lisa, I'm going to start with you since you're out there in the ether.
Thank you. I don't really have a lot to say. I can give you an update on the Smith Pike Woodyard Road project. It is still, we had a progress meeting on Tuesday. We are still at this point going to open at the end of September, which September is just in 2 weeks. So about 6 more weeks of this project. And we hope to open that roundabout. Fullerton Pike, we are finishing up. We have 3 properties left. I have 2 supplemental agreements that will go to the commissioners on August 31st. I've been working with our legal department, Dave Schilling, on those supplementals. And it's just basically working through some additional items they wanted us to look at, maybe widening a driveway on, it's the same property owner, the Vaults. It'd be widening the driveway on one of their parcels and actually doing water testing before construction of the Fullerton Pike project and water testing after to make sure that they have no issues. And if there are, that the county will step up to have a remedy for those conditions if something happens. So once we get those 2 signed, we expect 1 more supplemental on 1 other property in Fullerton Pike. Right-of-way acquisition is secured.
Okay. Any questions for Lisa? None. Okay, Jeff, do you have any?
I don't think I have a whole lot to add other than that we've crossed another requirement off our checklist for getting a residential TIF going. I think that the next at the next meeting, I'm going to prepare kind of they have a submittal you can give to the state to get kind of pre-approved for a lot of these things. So I'm going to try to get that pulled together and in front of you guys at the next meeting. Also, we'll make sure that the RBB claim is approved in September.
Have you had any more meetings with Mr. Kreider about the current project and how this might impact it and the funding available for it, et cetera?
I don't think we've had that level of conversation at this point. It probably would be a good idea to reach out to him to see where he's at with his planning. I think we were working on the assumption that construction was going to begin next year and that he was spending this time to get everything in order. I know that he indicated a concern with because it went the bridge over the creek and getting some state and federal permits for that.
Right.
So I'll double check with him to see where he's at.
Some of our monies that are coming in to pay for that are going to get diverted now, are going to go away if we create this new TIF. And we need to make sure that we still have the funding in place to meet our obligations.
And he's been aware of this from when we created that bond. So I think he's aware that there is some risk when we do this and change the area of the TIF district. And he was extremely comfortable with that when we went through the process.
Yeah. I think it's important so that we keep him up to
Yes.
speed and make sure that he's not forgetting what we're
Right.
going to do. Okay.
Can I do one more update?
What you said, Lisa?
Can I do one more update? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
She has one more update.
I think giving him the rest of your update, I will yield my time to Lisa.
I'm sorry. So over the last month, actually, the MPO had sent out to a letter to the LPAs that they had received, it's called 2JA funds. They had received about $983,000 that was to be distributed amongst LPAs with current POs and current projects. And they had to be submitted by the end of July, I believe. I put in 4 funds for the Fullerton Pike right-of-way PO, which was about $213,000. And then I also put in money towards construction, which I know it's a small amount. But I believe it was a little over 300,000. We worked with the city of Bloomington and the MPO staff, and we did get approval last Friday for acceptance of those funds to go towards those 2 projects that are each in a TIF fund. So I reached out to Kathy Eaton McCallum. She helped me secure that those funds did get approved, and So yeah, that was a success on our part of getting a
Good.
little, or about half of that $983,000.
Good. Adding to the pool of money available for the bridge
Absolutely.
without bankrupting the county. Big bridge.
And I know Jeff and I had talked about doing a bond for the Fullerton Pike and another bridge out of, and major bridge fund being the primary backup of that. We have decided that we're going to hold off until after the first of the year because the letting date for the Fullerton Pike Bridge is July of 2023. So we have a little bit of time there. So we'll definitely be bringing that back at closer to time. So sorry, I forgot those two updates.
That's okay. You got it. You got it in there. All right. Commissioner's comment. Mr. Tucker, do you have anything?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand her, so I had to read it on the
Oh, you're
screen.
reading it as.
And I can't understand half of you, because everything echoes. I have to go without it. I think I'll take my hearing aids off next time. Thank you very much, but I think this is great. I think that this RBB and moving along with the for the residential TIF is really important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Tucker, do you have anything to add?
No, it was nice to meet everybody in person. I think first time I've seen everybody in person. So glad the masks are off too. Thank you.
Right.
Glad to have you.
Colin, any comments?
Yeah, really good data from RBB today on the STEM, and really appreciate NCC, SE as well being here, and our continued due diligence on residential TIF, and I don't know where in the process we're going to have to look at some of the shortfalls in the infrastructure in terms of water and so forth, but at least there is progress, so that's great. But really appreciate everything that's going on with Edgewood Schools, and it's fantastic to see. So hope the coffee shop's going well.
Good. Randy, anything you wanted to add?
Just to echo the other commissioners' aspect in regards to RBB, the presentation and the staff you have working on that seems to be energized on site and doing the right things on that. It was a pleasure to hear. And with the infrastructure and such, to echo what Colin said, we have to look at it, what we have to do in the county to make it better. And I think starting with the human capital that we're looking at from young kids on up, that's a good start to get the involvement we need in this community to make it what we all want it to be. So I appreciate everything, guys. And I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to participate with you. Thank you.
Richard, I think Jim Shelton is still on. I
Yep.
saw him a couple minutes ago.
I was going to get there. Jim, do you have anything to say?
Well, I just want to say ditto to what everybody else has said, and I want to welcome Randy, and I want to express appreciation to Lisa Abbott for her service, especially the months where she stayed on until a replacement could be found for her.
Yes. Well, and I particularly appreciated Lisa's input when we were talking about the housing issues, because
Right.
she is so well aware of the situation and various kinds of opportunities that exist. I think our effort to look at this residential TIF is in large part due to the input and encouragement she gave us
That's right.
while she was on the.
That's right. Really,
Yes, appreciate that. I have no further comments. Anyone else? Anything else?
I'm moving adjourned.
We have a motion for adjournment
second.
and a second. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Bye all. Thanks.